you won't want to give it all away. It's yet to be formally launched. But what do you expect? What do you want to happen as part of the National Music Plan?
Well, it was one of the few successes that I can notch up, is to get Darren Henley to have done this report, because I thought he produced a brilliant report, and I think it helped save the funding for music education. I didn't want us to face a situation that we faced the last time budgets were devolved to schools, where money was dissipated, and I think that music is one of those, is part of the curriculum that needs central funding, as in at a local authority level. You need a pot of money to make sure it happens. Where I think that the problem has been in music education, if you like, is that there are almost too many players and there's not enough coordination. So I think in any given area there's an enormous amount of resource, orchestras being an obvious example, but many other charities and organisations that can make a difference. And I think central to the National Music Plan will be what Darren Henley recommended, which is what he calls music education hubs, which is to take the local authority model of funding music education, but to extend it out and to allow other people to participate in that model, be it an orchestra or a music venue to participate in providing music education, and potentially to become the provider and to bid for that money in order to provide it, potentially to allow different local authority areas to provide, which are really dynamic and go ahead and successful, to potentially come in and provide music education in other local authority areas. So really it's to open up provision with an element of core government funding.
Do you not think there's a danger of creativity being choked off at the root through these reforms to universities? I mean, this is an absolutely hugely important part of the arts ecology, if you like. The fees are increasing, you know, even humanities fees, which one might have imagined to be cheaper than science fees because they're cheaper courses to provide, are very expensive. This is a huge issue for people going into conservatories as well as into universities. I mean, this is a disaster for the future of the arts, isn't it? It's just choking off talent at the root.
Well, I don't think it is. I mean, first of all, I don't think people who study arts and humanities subjects necessarily always go into the arts. Some of them become bankers, for example, and therefore go into the unproductive part of the economy as opposed to the arts, which is the productive sector of the economy. But I think that the whole tuition fees policy issue is a much bigger deal than and a separate subject, which is about how you change the way that universities are financed and whether or not you can continue to have the expansion of higher education that we've seen on the basis of free education in the sense of low or non-existent tuition fees. And it is about university, I think it will take a while for the model to settle down, but it'll be about universities offering a different range of courses, different models of courses, more flexible and different courses in the light of that. And I think there will also be potentially a change of emphasis. I think there might be, and I would welcome it, frankly, more emphasis on apprenticeships and different forms of education. But that's a big debate about the future of higher education.
You can talk all you like about creative interests, and it's terribly important, and people's lives and da-da-da, but it seems, to me at least, that Eric Pickles does not have any interest in preserving or in encouraging this part of British life or the economy.
Well, I haven't talked to Eric Pickles about the arts. He's coming to my constituency
Why not?
in October.
Why not? Why have you not spoken to Eric Pickles about the arts?
About his interest in the arts, his personal interest in the arts, which is the question you asked me. And
Again,
I find it odd that there is this kind of, you're judged in terms of your ministerial performance on whether or not you, how much you talk about the arts. I mean, I think it's important that we celebrate the arts and highlight the arts. But what we're talking about is how we distribute.
The question was about policy, not about personality.
How we distribute a finite budget. Well, the arts are not a statutory provision. I mean, Eric's department is there to allocate money to local authorities, which he has done.
Do you think there should be a statutory provision? Do you think there should be a local authority?
No, I don't think there should be a statutory provision.
Okay, let's move on from that. This is the year of corporate philanthropy, which Jeremy announced in December last year, Jeremy Hunt, the Culture Secretary. What precisely has the year of corporate philanthropy achieved so far?
Well, it's achieved quite a lot. It's achieved, for example, the £100 million Catalyst Fund, that's been announced by...
But that's public money, that's not to do with corporate.
Well, that was
money.
announced by the Arts Council and Heritage Lottery Fund, and it's designed to lever in corporate money. So it's designed, that's why it's called the Catalyst Fund. It's designed to allow arts and heritage organisations to say to potential donors, if you give us money, it can be match funded or part match funded by government. So that's why it's going to, we hope, act as a catalyst to lever in corporate philanthropy. So I think that's a very good, tangible achievement of the year of corporate philanthropy. And also within that as well is funding for capacity building. So again, to allow arts organisations and heritage organisations to get grants from the Arts Council and Heritage Lottery Fund to create the capacity to raise money. There's been the inheritance tax break, which is designed to encourage people to leave money to arts organisations. And there's also the commitment to allow the lifetime giving of works of art to institutions, as opposed to, again, giving through an estate.
So what companies or corporations or businesses have given as a result of the year of corporate philanthropy 2011?
Well, I think that what I think is encouraging is that the overall level of corporate giving, as far as I'm aware, is pretty much maintained despite the difficult economic climate. I mean, I think that, again, it's incumbent on arts organisations to get out there and engage with businesses. And I think there are points you can make about that. First of all, I think that there are a lot of arts organisations that there's a danger sometimes that some arts organisations think that the conversation with the donor ends when they write the cheque. I think that's when the conversation, is actually just starting to begin. I think that a lot of organisations need to understand that it's not just a question of hiring a fundraiser and the money rolls in. The entire organisation has to be engaged in fundraising. I think people have to understand that the people they are hoping will give them money should be seen as partners, not donors, that they're people who are giving them money because they share the vision of that arts organisation, and they should be let in that sense and become part of the organisation.
That's a good moment to open it up to the floor, I think.
Fran Toms, Head of Culture for Manchester City Council, I'd like to just thank you for the compliment about Manchester's approach to cuts to culture. But I would like to just stress that it's taken a long, long time, and it's very much in partnership with cultural organisations in the city. We are one cultural ecology, and I think that is very important. That's why I do agree with you, Ed, that it's up to us to work together to make those arguments. We've spent probably 15, 20 years making those arguments about culture and the value of culture within the council, across every department, from health to education, children, young people, and we've had some success. I'd like to know whether you'd like some help with doing the same thing with DCMS to improve the clout of DCMS as a government department.
Yes, that'd be great. Terrific. No, I think it's a huge issue, how government works, and it's been a revelation to me as a minister that, the yes minister cliche is true. And we have at the Tory conference, I'm sure this is a gift to The Guardian, but
It's all right, my tape recorder's not working.
we have a business breakfast where businesses come and are able to talk to ministers. And I was looking around the room, because you get kind of different range of businesses every 15 minutes. And I could see several ministers, and I thought I'd really like to have 15 minutes with that minister to produce, to press my own particular agenda where his or her department is relevant. I think there should be kind of speed dating sessions for ministers so that we get a chance, because it is amazing how little you see of your colleagues because you're in your department. And I do think we need to find a way in Whitehall for departments to work much more effectively together. And I take, the point implied in your question, which is, it's incumbent on me and other ministers to think, you have to set aside a part of your job description is to get out there and press your case with other departments. And DCMS obviously is more prominent in that regard, because a lot of your agenda depends on other departments, be it education, communities, local government, and so on.
I'd like to bring in Isabel. Nottingham and Tyneside, thank you very much for contributing.
There's a couple of questions that are picking up on what you were talking about on the subject of putting the arts to the government, the funding body, the council. So Claire is asking, how can participatory art make their work more visible to the DCMS and ACE to prevent them being constantly overlooked? And this is linked to also a question about how can rural and regional body build the necessary contact to consider relying on philanthropic support. I suppose this was linked to a tweet from Phil, who was asking if you have any plans to release a policy document entitled How to Bump into Philanthropists in the Street.
I think that's a great title for a policy document. It would certainly be eye-catching, and I think that, again, if I can be slightly sensitive, I think there's a slightly negative tone to those tweets, and I think, again, I would change that to a positive and say, frankly, if you don't realise that you could bump into a philanthropist in the street, then you haven't quite got the point I'm trying to make, which is that you should always be on. You know, if you're running an arts organisation, you should always be thinking, who can I engage with my arts organisation who might want to fund the projects I'm doing?
The other major loss to the arts this year that's been slightly less reported has been the abolition of the regional development agencies and the kind of strategic overview they had, and like them or loathe them, some very enlightened decisions about what to invest in. A lot of money came from North West Development Agency into Manchester International Festival, Liverpool Biennial, and Lakes Alive, and so on. And a lot of the shift in funding from the Arts Council this year has been to plug the kind of black hole that's been left by that strategic investment. What's left there is the Regional Growth Fund and the new local enterprise partnerships, which are private sector led. There's a lot less money, so their decisions are a lot more conservative. So how do we get that kind of strategic investment to pay attention to culture as a driver of the economy and make those enlightened decisions?
Well, I think I've always encouraged arts organisations to apply to the Regional Growth Fund. I have no say on how the money is allocated, but I've certainly wanted to let people know that, as far as I'm concerned, an arts organisation has as much right as a widget factory or whatever to apply to the Regional Growth Fund for funding, particularly as it's meant to support the more deprived areas of the country and support organisations that create sustainable jobs, which is what arts organisations are perfectly capable of doing. And I think there are, again, many local economic partnerships who put culture very much front and centre of what they do. And I think Manchester, the point made about Manchester is again another valuable point, which is, you know, don't wait for the next crisis, as it were. You know, if there is a local economic partnership, ask yourself, have you engaged with it? Are you talking to them? Are you letting them know how you can fit in with their agenda?
Secretaries of State for Culture, Ministers for Culture, notoriously short-lived because it's a wonderful opportunity and then they move on to something else, a different portfolio. So in order to ensure that your successors have as much passion and interest as yourself in the field, perhaps it's about building on the offer from Manchester in terms of education of those other departments, those other ministers and would-be ministers, and perhaps there are people in this room and elsewhere who would join that task force to be part of that education about investment in the arts as a cultural driver, as a contributor to health and well-being, and to build on that wonderful investment that's been made in the Cultural Olympiad, which really demonstrates how creative the arts sector is in this country, so different from every other Olympic organisation to now. So joining together, being part of that thing.
In fact, if I can put back the question, retrieve the point that was made earlier about the need, the way that culture was pushed up the agenda in Manchester. They think necessarily Manchester should come give me a masterclass. They should also give a masterclass to other local authorities. And I think that the local government group, you know, there are numerous organisations that bring local authorities together to discuss best practice. And I think it would be good to see local authority organisations taking the lead in showing other local authorities what they can achieve by taking culture seriously, perhaps they could start with Walsall. So I don't have an answer to your question. I don't know the facts. The get-out clause for a politician is the politician's clause. Get-out clause is I don't know the specific details of the case to which you the case to which you refer.
So, want me to send you the email? I'll tell you what, Ed. I'll send you the
yes,
email.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
I'll do that.
If you send me the email, then I could engage with you on that point.
I would like to thank you all very much for being here and for asking such great questions. I would like to thank the Minister for being here and for being so game. It's been a pleasure, despite our nearly falling out.